I have been lying for most of my life, and to tell you the truth, it served me so well and has allowed me to have such amazing experiences in my life. And I know this isn't normally what people talk about when they talk about lying. Usually it's followed up with lying is bad or you shouldn't do this. However, for me, I have used it so many times in my life to allow me to have the experiences that I did, and some of them which are just absolutely amazing. And so, in this video, I'm going to share a personal story and experience of how I have used lying to get me to where I am and the impacts of that onto my life. So with that, sit back, get comfortable, and let's get started. So let us set up the background a little bit. So I was born in a country called Yugoslavia. This country no longer exists. It's got torn apart into a bunch of different countries from a whole bunch of different wars. And in fact, this area of the world historically has been through so many wars. I mean, everything from like the Roman Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the mom and pop's empire, popping left, right, and center. You know, everybody's empire has taken its turn kind of going through there. And the consequence of that is that you have these people, these Balkan people that are essentially hardened by war. And a lot of the people there are conditioned to essentially they're conditioned basically to a war environment, or have been raised by caregivers like such as parents that have gone through a similar event. And so, to give you a bit of context of what some of these people are like, is that there wasn't really much time for slowing down and feeling your emotions and feelings and sharing and doing all that kind of stuff. You're in war. Okay, you've got to survive, so you just got to go. And you slowing down could be the difference between you surviving or not. And so this is kind of the hardening of the Balkans that you get, and there's the conditioning that people receive, and this is just how we carried on our normal lives, thinking that this is the case. And I happen to have come from a family where this is the case. It's the kind of conditioning that we've had and how I was raised. So that gives you a bit of the background. Now let's sprinkle in some more flavors. This kid moves over into Canada. Awesome. First world country. Lot better opportunities here than back there. Pretty sweet. So childhood's doing pretty good until about grade 6. And then in grade 6, we are moving from the eastern side of the country to way up in the northern side of the country in this city called Yellowknife. It's really a town, it's so tiny. But, and in this particular time, life decided to drop an event called September 11th. And if you remember in the Western world, it was all the rage, and all you can hear about it was about this terrorist called Osama bin Laden. Well, it didn't take long for these 10, 11-year-olds to merge Osama bin Laden, Mladen, which is my name, together, and terrorist, and blend it all together, and in walks in my countless hours, days, and years of pain and suffering and severe bullying. That was a very, very difficult time in my life. And to give you further context, I'm moving here, so I don't have the friends that I had before. And so to not be alone and to not feel that, I mean, there was already prior to this feelings of, like, you know, worthlessness and being a loser. But, you know, I was still doing pretty good. But the moment I moved here, and in mixing in all this bullying, my life just went boo right down there. So if you could put it up into a scale of like, this is like bare bone bottom, like you're basically suicidal to the point you're gonna end it, and then this was like like you're just on cloud 9. You know, my life before was like and then it just plummeted down to here. And you know, for a 10, 11-year-old, I think it was like 10 or 11. It was a very difficult time because I've never encountered something to this extremity before. And so I remember, whether it be during class, whether it be recess or lunchtime, I'd be sitting there with, anywhere between 8 to like 12 other boys, and we'd be having lunch, and very often would the conversation often gravitate towards me and how I'm some sort of terrorist and how I'm going to blow up and how I'm the loser and I don't deserve to be here and how I should just go back to where I came from, blah, 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 blah. And then eventually it would escalate to it being a lot more physical, where they were picking fights with me, and I was frequently fighting, and sometimes being completely surrounded by a bunch of boys, and having to go through that. It was a very dark time in my life because I couldn't. When you're experiencing that moment to moment, and you're a kid, first off, you don't have the tools most likely to deal with this kind of stuff, and so everything they say, you make it mean about yourself. And so I was internalizing further feelings of being a loser, of not being worthy, of not being even worthy of existence, of being imperfect, of being just everything they threw on me. And I would come home, and it wasn't really a supportive environment emotionally, and like around feelings and stuff. You would get really teased and made fun of for oh, you're showing your feelings, oh, like, poor baby gonna cry, and that kind of stuff. So I had nowhere to go. I couldn't just pick up and pack my bags and go somewhere else. I was 10. Like, I had nothing to really go with. And as this bullying increased and became more and more frequent, I became a lot more miserable in my life. A lot of this pain and suffering continued to amplify. Well, this is tough to talk about. And it started to permeate in every area of my life. I started to feel miserable. I started to feel like a complete piece of shit. I had a very hard time sleeping. I had a very hard time being with myself. It was a very dark place, and I did go through periods where I was contemplating suicide. Regardless, it was a very tough time in my life. And so I had no escape. I didn't know what else to do. And very frequently, as I was just teetering on the edge, sometimes, there was worse days than others. As I was teetering on that edge, I have managed to devise a way to escape all of that. And that was to lie. I would lie to myself and lie to everybody else because I've seen other people do it, I've done it before, and I would get away with things. And I figured out that if I lie about the situation that I'm in, about the present state that I am in right now, the present situation, that when I did that, I would escape those very, even more negative feelings of complete, like, just despair. And it would just keep me maybe afloat a little bit longer, and I can make it through the next day. And so I would lie about how, when these kids were making fun of me, and these kids are just really just ripping on me, taking turns and just going at it. I would lie about, like, they're just teasing, whatever. We're having a good time, everybody's laughing, I just happen to be the guy they're picking on, whatever. Sometimes they pick on another guy, but hey, it is what it is. Like, this is my position, but hey, I'm kind of included. They didn't really kick me out of the group or anything. And then I would lie about all kinds of things. And as I started to do that, it started becoming more and more enticing to lie, because as I would lie to myself in this particular moment, I'm bringing myself out of the pain and I'm starting to fantasize and live in this fantasy world of who I really was. And so I remember at the time I got really hooked onto this series called Dragon Ball Z, and it was awesome because it was filled with these these guys that would go Super Saiyan, their ultimate power, and like I'm like, if I had that power, I would never be hurt. I would never go through pain again. I'd be able to protect others and all that good stuff. And it was this lying I started to get really good at it, because I was relying on it so much to escape that pain. So there was such a drive internally to continue to do whatever I could possibly do to escape that pain. And I mean, as a 10-year-old, remember, I am 10 years old, not having any other options really. This was the best possible course for me to take. Else the other option, I probably wouldn't be here today. And so relying on lying, I've done it so many times that I have become essentially a masterful liar. I would lie so well that I would even convince myself, even sometimes in the same sentence. And it's done some crazy things in my life. I mean, fast forward now a bunch of years, you have me, I've graduated from one of the best universities. I've gone to just traveling around the world. I've dated a whole bunch of people. I've managed to race in supercars. I've done all kinds of crazy experiences. And on the surface, I was able to make it appear a specific way of who I was. And look at this, I got my life all put together. And but internally, it was completely empty and void. And so by lying about who I was and how I was appearing, to everybody else it looked like I was good. I was living like literally the life. And but internally, what it was costing me was the relationships that I had with everything. The relationships that I had mostly really with myself. Those empty feelings, and just constantly the constant battle to suppress those feelings of worthlessness, suppress the feelings of I'm not good enough, suppress the feelings of, I'm a loser. And you kind of try to hide them away, but whatever you resist persists. And I didn't really understand the law of attraction at this time, where the state that you're in and what you believe and what you operate is really what you tend to attract into your life. And I've had so many experiences of where I would, point and say, that was just a bad work environment. That was a bad boss. That was a bad coworker. That was a crazy act. So that was another crazy act. That was a crazy friend. That was a crazy person. That was a crazy this and crazy that stupid event. Like, oh my God, they're the problem, But life had such a way to sober me up to the fact that everywhere that I was pointing, that all of those things, the common denominator in all of that was me. And that was a very bitter and painful pill to swallow, because just when I thought I had life figured out, I've escaped all the pain and suffering and this, or most of it, to just realize that it was all really built on lies. It was all really just built and driven by my need to escape the pain and stuff. And so a couple of years ago, I discover various forms of personal development, and this basically started my journey of looking at the truth. There was all this life around me that I've seen, that I've built off of lies, that has brought to me these amazing experiences and allowed me to survive to where I am today. So I'm very grateful for it. I'm very grateful for it. But it was no longer serving me. The cost that I was paying of lying, of continuing to lie, versus telling the truth, it was just far outweighing that. And now I was catching myself more and more of falling into the trap of, just because it's been such a familiar state of being, I would then just lie for no apparent reason. And so by being able to catch that through personal development, I've been able to kind of put some awareness to it and realize that when I lie, the consequences and the impacts of that is that I feel like crap. I don't feel very good. Initially, I feel good because you'd give me that same dopamine spike, that same little thing that addicted me to lying when I was very young. It still gives me that exact little bit of spike, but now it quickly crashes down. And since my transformations in personal development and all kinds of things, anywhere from hiring my amazing coach to meditations, through courses, through self-reflections, through conversations and engagements in these practices, my life has just been on a crazy upward trajectory, and I've been loving it. I've been realizing that it's become way more apparent when I do lie. It's just not in alignment with myself, and my personal development journey through everything has allowed me to go from this place of lying and recentering me to my true self, my true and authentic and perfect and complete self of who I am, and able to realize that that is the truth to who I am, and not this lie that I took on, that I am not good enough, that I am a loser, that I'm not capable of doing anything, and that I never amount to anything, all kinds of those things. And it was a very difficult journey, and it still continues to be so, because this is how I operated for most of my life. And now I've been shifting over into it's a lot more centered, a lot more clear, a lot more confidence, a lot more like clarity, everything. It's such a powerful way of being without having to portray something that I am not. It's so authentic to me. And where I was going with this is that, through personal development, my default kind of operating state has been in a significantly happier place, and a much more beautiful, blissful place. So I pick up a lot. I pick up on a lot of the lies that I would normally do, and it's a continuous practice of saying, hey, that I feel like crap. And why do I feel like crap or frustrated or angry? I'm like, probably because I was lying here, here, and here, and that doesn't feel in alignment. So then I would go do the work on it, and I'd realign. And of course, ego rolls in and says, I no longer lie and I no longer do this. Complete BS, because just recently I was called out by my coach. I was sitting there, and I made a commitment to her and myself. Actually, I made a commitment to myself, explicit, and sharing it with her, that I would be meditating every single day for the remainder of our coaching sessions. And when she asked me about it, if I did follow through that commitment, I responded with a yes. Of course I meditated. Like, come on. Of course I meditated every single day. And she called me out on my BS, because it just so happens that I think on our previous session, before that one, I told her that I was on vacation with family and that I didn't have time to meditate. So it was alarming for me to see just how easily I buy in, because I've become a masterful liar to myself and to others. It's become so apparent to me now it's so shocking to see just how quickly I have bought into that lie, that I was actually doing one thing when in fact I was actually doing something else. And so I'm very grateful that my coach was able to pick that out. And honestly, there's a lot of different areas that I know currently are out of my awareness, that I am doing my absolute best to do that. And it's really given birth to this personal transformation and this mission of mine to really engage with my life, to see, hey, what areas am I still not being incongruent and am I being in disalignment with myself, and how can I bring those back into that self, that whole and that perfect place where I don't have to pretend to be something that I'm not. And just that journey alone, is enough probably for the rest of my life. I can't wait to just keep going on this and to see what that really brings my way. So thank you for listening. It's just a story I really wanted to share. It really hits home, and see you in the next one.